Welcome to TV2 Sports Talk on DMG Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable. I'm Bill Morgan, WJER Radio Sports Director, and on this week's show, focused on pro sports in Northeast Ohio, normally taking a look at what's going on locally, especially from the high school perspective. But this time of the year, the Indians season underway, the Cavs are in the playoffs, the Browns are in the midst of draft talk, so we thought we'd talk pro sports in Northeast Ohio with Roger Metzger, who you can see here now. He's the sports editor at the Times Reporter, along with Jim Haynes and Hank Keithley from the TR, who will join us a little bit later on in the show. Now, Raj, unlike those guys you might see on, say, something like ESPN's First Take that are loud, obnoxious, overbearing, Stephen A. Smith, Raj is about the most laid-back guy you'll probably ever meet in the sports media, print, broadcast, or otherwise. But one thing that Roger has a passion for that burns is the Cleveland Indians. And Raj, unfortunately, despite a lot of positive spring training reviews and reviews going into the season, so far, it has not been a good season for the Indians. It's a long campaign. But what's going on with this team, especially when it comes to their inability to score runs?
They can't hit the ball. I mean, that's simple as that. I mean, you got to be able to score runs in order to win, and they just haven't done that. The pitching has shown, flashes of brilliance here and there, but overall, their hitting is just terrible. Their situational hitting, especially runners at third base with one out. They can't score runs, and when you can't score runs, you can't win. And right now, I'm not sure what they're going to do. They're all in a funk at the same time. It's not one guy carrying the team, it's just one of those things where they're all not hitting at the same time. I guess the only bright spot would be Michael Brantley. He's been playing very well, but for the most part, they're just hitting has not come around so far.
And I guess the crazy thing about that, Raj, is anybody who sort of broke this team down heading into the preseason knew that if there was going to be a challenge, it was scoring runs. And it really didn't look like, and you can give me Brandon Moss all you want to. I know he's been on a hot streak as of recently, but prior to that, his batting average wasn't a whole lot higher than mine. But other than obtaining Brandon Moss, who had a major injury at the end of last year, they really didn't do anything to improve themselves offensively, and that was a concern of mine, not that anybody cares, headed into the regular season.
No, but they thought, Michael Bourne, he was injured last year for most of the season. He's going to be the table setter. He's going to get on base. He's going to steal bases. He's going to disrupt things, and he can't get on first base. He just can't get on base. Kipnis has not had the year that everybody thought. He was also injured last year. Thought maybe he would turn things around and start hitting, but so far here in the month of April, they just have not been able to do anything right offensively. It's just amazing.
Roger Metzger, sports editor for the Times Reporter, our guest on TV2 Sports Talk here on DMG Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable. And I guess with the offensive struggles, Roger, it brings to the question, what are they going to do? I mean, at this time of the year, very rarely do you see a trade in baseball. That's usually toward, the All-Star break and the Midsummer Classic. What do they do, if anything, to try and alleviate the problems they're having at the plate and offensively?
Well, I guess Terry Francona is just going to hope, cross your fingers, that they're all going to come around here eventually. But what's more disturbing to me is the fact that they're losing inside the division. They've played all their games, except for the Houston series. They've played within the division, and they're just burying themselves right now. And if they don't get it turned around this homestand, they could find themselves completely out of the playoff picture by May 1st. It's just one of those things where you've got to win in your division, and right now their division record is not very good.
The Cleveland Indians, of course, you can follow them on the radio all season long on our sister radio station, 1450 WJER, the sports voice of the Tuscarawas Valley. Now, as we try to add some positivity, which really isn't a word to this discussion, there are times when the starting pitching has been spectacular with Carlos Carrasco and Trevor Bauer specifically. Danny Salazar had a great start last week against Detroit. So you've seen, and you said, I think the phrase flashes of brilliance there, but also at times they've had a few struggles. But I guess if you got to hang your hat on something in the early going, at times we've seen good stuff out of the starting pitching.
We have, but what I'm concerned about a little bit is Corey Kluber. I mean, he's your Cy Young Award winner, and he's had one really good start, and the other two have not been very good. And I was kind of worried about that when they gave him that long-term contract. He really hadn't had a track record of winning. I mean, he had the great season last year, but prior to that, he really didn't. There was nothing to hang your hat on. But like one of my compadres said, he does throw strikes, and I like that. He really throws strikes, but and he has been victimized too by, like I said, the lack of offense. I mean, there's been a couple of games there where he probably could have come out on the winning end, but he just hasn't. But hopefully, he had a bad record last year early on, and he turned things around and was able to get the Cy Young Award. So hopefully, cross your fingers and everything, that he'll have a better May, and then maybe things will turn around.
Roger Metzger from the TR, and Raj, as we wrap up this part of our conversation, how challenging is it being an Indians fan? They're off to a challenging start. That's challenge number one. Secondarily, having to work on a daily basis with a guy who is a complete Tigers honk, and Hank Keithley. Of course, the Tigers are smacking around the Indians like a newborn baby. I'm sure you have to hear trash talk from Mr. Keithley just about each and every day.
Every day. It's every day. But hey, what can I say? Miguel Cabrera he owns the Indians over his career. He just, every time that guy comes, even the other day against, I guess it was Sunday's game, he had an out, but he still drove in a run. I mean, they got the guy out, he still drove in a run, which is very frustrating if you're a Cleveland Indians fan. But you got to give the guy his due. He's a great hitter, and there's a lot of teams that have struggled against him too.
We'll give Cabrera his due. Hank Keithley, probably not. If he doesn't get dispatched back to 8 Mile along with his former neighborhood homie Eminem, he may appear, Hank Keithley, on this show a little bit later on. Coming up as TV2 Sports Talk continues, we'll continue to talk pro sports in Northeast Ohio with Roger Metzger, and we'll be joined by Jim Haynes from the TR Sports staff as well, all when this week's edition of TV2 Sports Talk continues on DMG Channel 2.
As a parent, we always want what's best for our child. In the case of one child, it may be going off to college. In another case, staying home and going to college. And yet, in other cases, it could be going right into the workforce. But how will they have the skills to do that? Buckeye Career Center has been the answer for one of our daughters. She's learning to do things with her hands that are going to be very valuable for her in the workplace. And we're excited we have Buckeye to thank for that.
Adults who return to Buckeye Career Center to continue their education usually have one goal in mind. They want the opportunity for a better job. The fact is, adult education programs at Buckeye Career Center are less expensive and provide greater opportunities for job placement following graduation. It's your future. Get the facts. Buckeye Career Center. We put people to work. Find out more about your future at buckeyecareercenter.org.
Well, I woke up to the sound of silence and cars. We're cutting like knives in a fist fight. And I found you with a tear in your eye, your head in the curtains and heart like the 4th of July.
You swore and said, we are not shining stars. This I know, I never said we are. If you're lost and alone, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on. Carry on, carry on. We are shining stars. Carry on, carry on. We are who we are.
TV2 Sports Talk continuing on DMG Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable. I'm Bill Morgan, talking sports in Northeast Ohio on the professional level this week with members of the Times reporter staff that always do great work. You can check them out, of course, online at timesreporter.com, as well as picking up the newspaper. I know I'm a middle-aged guy, but while I'll go and read the TR online, I love to have the newspaper in my hands in the morning when I'm on the radio and I'm playing those CDs. It used to be records. That tells you how old I am. Joined by Roger Metzger and now Jim Haynes from the TR staff. And Jim, the Cavaliers in the playoffs. They swept the Boston Celtics. A lot of good news. However, some bad news. It doesn't look like Kevin Love is going to play in the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Bulls or the Bucks. And maybe he may not play at all the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate injury. Of course, that series was very physical. Cavaliers took care of business, but now they're going to have to find somebody now to step in for Love and give them what he was giving them, double every night. 19 points, 10 boards, somewhere in that area. Those are big shoes to fill. A lot of people discount Kevin Love and what he brought to this team. Hopefully, Cleveland will take care of business in the second round, and Love will be back in the conference finals.
Not only Love out, but then the NBA handing out personal editorial opinion, what I think is an unjustified 2-game suspension against J.R. Smith. These guys are banging all game 4. He goes and pushes back, and he ends up getting a 2-game suspension, a flagrant 2, an ejection. Crazy, but no matter what I think of it, Jim, so Love is out. Smith is out for 2 games. I don't know if he'll appeal that. If he did, will they knock it down to 1 game? I have no idea. But you're talking about definitively at this point being without 2 starters for games 1 and 2.
Yeah, and like I said, those are big losses for Cleveland. In my opinion, the referees lost control of that series in Game 2 when things started getting really physical. They kind of let the guys bang around, which is fine. But when Kendrick Perkins, planted Crowder, I was shocked that neither one of them were ejected. And then, of course, Love got injured prior to that. But and then J.R. Smith, did his thing. But it's going to be a challenge, and I'm curious to see. I think it's going to be more of a challenge for the Cavs should they face the Bulls in the next round. I like the matchup better with the Bucks versus the Cavs, but the Bucks have 2 more games to win before that happens.
Jim Haynes from the Times Reporter, along with Roger Metzger, will talk with Hank Keithley from the TR staff coming up a little bit later on as well. The Browns, Roger, in the midst of draft. That's coming up later this week as we film this particular edition of TV2 Sports Talk. And one of the things that NFL teams do, whether it's the Browns or anybody else, they always put up a smoke screen. What kind of a position player are they going to take? Who are they not going to take? And I think, at least at this point, they've done a pretty good job with that because I have no idea who they're taking.
No, and Ray Farmer's not going to let you know. He had that the quote press conference the other day, which he didn't say anything. He said a lot of nothing. But a lot of people are saying, well, let's trade up and get a franchise quarterback. I don't think either one of those guys, Winston or Mariota, are franchise quarterbacks. I just don't see it, and I don't want to give up 12 and 19 to move up, or in even a future draft, first round draft pick to go up to get. Because I just don't think either one of those guys are franchise quarterbacks. Now, I'd like to keep our picks. They've got 10, I think, in the first, the whole 7 rounds or whatever. And I think they just need to draft for need. Just try to get the best player available. Don't be screwing around. Don't be trading up. And try to just get the best player you can and try to build from within.
Raj, I couldn't agree more. I mean, let's face it, Mariota, and I know the matchups are different and the game to some degree is different. He couldn't beat Ohio State. I mean, if he can't beat Ohio State, and Ohio State, obviously a very good collegiate team, but the challenges you're going to face in the NFL physically and otherwise are going to be that much bigger and that much stronger.
Well, plus he plays out of the shotgun. I mean, no pro team, he didn't run a pro offense at Oregon. I don't believe so. It wasn't really a pro offense. But I just don't think he fits what they want to do. I mean, goodness gracious, they need to find a quarterback. I don't know if Johnny's going to be the answer. I'm not sure if McCown's going to be the answer. But right now, those are the 2 guys. Connor Shaw's in the fold, and I guess Thaddeus Lewis is also there. But they just.
By the way, what kind of offseason breaking news was that? Everybody's signing everybody in the free agent market, and we signed Thaddeus.
That's right. That
Lewis.
went right under the radar. Went right under the radar. But anyhow, quarterback, it's where it all begins. You got to have a quarterback or you're not going to go anywhere. So I just hope that, either that or maybe somewhere along the line they can find another veteran quarterback to be. But I guess right now they want to use McCown as the starter right now, and then see what happens from there, I guess.
Guys talking sports this week on TV2 Sports Talk. Bill Morgan from WJER Radio and TV2, along with Roger Metzger and Jim Haynes from the TR. We'll talk with Hank Keithley coming up in a couple of moments. Usually, as important as sports, when you've got guys talking sports, is food. And the guy sitting in the middle has developed a burgeoning reputation for his abilities in the kitchen, especially when it comes to chocolate chip cookies. First off, Jim Haynes, I'd like to apologize for the conduct of Rob Brindley from the WJER sports team. He is shameless and, quite honestly, pathetic, begging on social media to get some of your chocolate chip cookies. I'm ashamed on his behalf.
It's okay. You know, I need to step up and come through and get him some to shut him up. But
the key word is you don't owe him anything, but it would be nice if he shut up.
Right. Yeah, he does attack me on social media. But it's okay. You know, I'm tough. I can handle it. So.
What is your secret, if you don't want it to any longer be a secret, for success with the chocolate chips in your kitchen?
You gotta have the butter soft.
There you have it. Have you ever wondered why your chocolate chip cookies are horrible? The butter's not soft. Jim Haynes, a great look at chocolate chip cookies on TV2 Sports Talk. Coming up, Hank Keithley will join this mess, and we'll talk more about what's happening in sports in Northeast Ohio here on TV2 Sports Talk from DMG Channel 2.
WJER and TV2 would like to introduce you to a new website, WJERTV2.com, where you can watch exciting high school football, soccer, and volleyball replays from TV2 Sports on your home computer, smartphone, or tablet. Also watch the latest episodes of TV2's original programming, Sports Talk, The Garden Girl, The Not So Shy Chef, Off the Record, and Medical Minutes, as well as catch up on local community news and search for local businesses. So make sure to check out the new WJERTV2.com community website where everything's local.
You're watching TV2 Sports Talk on DMG Channel 2, your home for the best in local and regional sports coverage in Northeast Ohio. I'm Bill Morgan, and this week we're just talking sports with guys from the Times Reporter, Roger Metzger, who may or may not be back in a couple of minutes, Jim Haynes and Hank Keithley. And Hank, as you join us, people may or may not know from reading you in the Times Reporter over the years, you're a guy from Michigan prior to moving here a long time ago. You remain shamelessly a University of Michigan fan. What is Jim Harbaugh? And we could go back and forth about Ohio State and Michigan, but on a serious note, what does Jim Harbaugh bring to Ann Arbor? What can he do that maybe Brady Hoke struggled to do?
You know, I think he's going to bring a toughness back to that team that they kind of lost when they started doing the Rich Rodriguez thing, even, you know, where they started trying to go with the flash and dash and the wide open passing game and things like that. I think Harbaugh is going to bring a bit of a hard-nosed edge back to the team and back to the Big Ten.
And I guess, Hank, when you talk about him doing that, and of course their arch rival in Ohio State, I guess one of the things that I think even secretly, now not all Buckeye fans, it hasn't been a real big rivalry as of late. We went through a stretch where Michigan beat the tar out of Ohio State about every year when John Cooper was the head coach.
Cooper years, yes.
But when Jim Tressel came in, that really sort of eventually turned the tables and has stayed that way for the most part. Don't get me wrong, there have been a few Michigan wins, let's be fair. I guess specifically in that rivalry, what has to happen? Does Harbaugh have to recruit better? What has to happen?
Yeah, I think he has to recruit better. And again, I think it goes back to bringing the toughness back. You know, a lot of people didn't like Jim Tressel the way he ran offenses. You know, he kind of had a boring game, but his teams were tough. They played physical football. They wanted those 1 and 2 yard gains, and those are important in a game. You know, so I think that's for a lot of years Ohio State's just out toughed them and just been tougher physically. So I think he's, you know, if Harbaugh can bring that back and they can at least match him physically, then, you know, we're going to have some good games again.
Hank Keithley from the Times Reporter, along with Jim Haynes. And gentlemen, here's something that's not necessarily on the biggest of sports radars on the pro front in Northeast Ohio, but really it's continuing to get an increased focus locally. Cody Garbrandt going to get a second chance to go up in the oval, the ring, and that's coming up in Las Vegas in July.
Yeah, Cody is he's a tough kid, and I tell you what, it takes a special guy to do this stuff. You've seen some of this stuff. These guys practice their sport by going into the ring and kicking each other in the face. No, I'm not doing that. I've never wanted to be kicked in the face.
Have you ever been kicked in the face?
Not on purpose, I don't think. But
enough about Hank's home life with his lovely wife, Debbie.
Okay, she'll get you for that.
Now, I guess, Jim, tell us what that was like. I know you guys got a chance to talk to Cody one of the times he was in town. Obviously, he wins on really what was a late surge in his first battle, and I'm sure he's looking forward to match number 2 coming up in the early part of July.
Oh yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I know, I follow him on Twitter and stuff, and I see some of the things he posts about, getting another fight, and now he's got that opportunity again. So definitely a good chance for him to go out and win again and continue to make a name for himself. But when he was in our offices, a down-to-earth kid, has really focused on his career and kind of separated himself from maybe the bad things that go on in that kind of in that sport, as happened with any sport. But he seems really focused, and of course his good buddy Maddox, the boy with cancer, that's his inspiration, and that's quite a story in itself.
TV2 Sports Talk on DMG Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable, talking with the guys from the sports staff, the Times Reporter, Jim Haynes, Hank Keithley, Roger Metzger, the sports editor, with us a little bit earlier on. I guess tell us about the Browns draft. Jim, we'll start with you. We were talking with Roger about who do you take? Do you trade up? What do the Browns have to do to eventually, I should find a more professional way of saying this, what do the Browns have to do to not stink?
They need to start winning football games. Winning cures everything, but in order to win, you have to draft. And the Browns have had a horrible track record when it comes to drafting. Roger mentioned, they need to find that franchise quarterback. Every year coming into the draft, it's going to be Johnny Manziel, it's going to be Brandon Weeden, it's going to be this guy, that guy. And where are we? We're back to who's going to be our quarterback. So obviously, to me, there's some issues with the front office personnel and their ability to draft. And I really think that going back to last year's draft when they drafted Manziel, I don't think it was somebody they necessarily wanted, although they'll tell you that. But I think it was more pressure with Manziel sitting there and still not being drafted, and it was their turn to pick. I think the pressure that if they don't pick him, what's going to happen, outweighed the common sense issue. But and here we are again. We have Josh McCown as our quarterback. Brian Hoyer's gone, and so they just have to win football games, and it starts with drafting the right people.
And Hank, when we talk about drafting the right people, their top overall draft pick last year, Justin Gilbert, he was the number 8 selection. By the time the end of the year came around, he had been beat out at that other corner spot by an undrafted free agent.
I got to tell you, I'm going the exact opposite of Roger Metzger. I saw what these guys did in the draft last year, trading picks to move up a spot to draft Gilbert, trading 2 picks to move up a spot to draft Johnny Manziel. I don't think these guys have a clue. I just want to sell the farm, get a quarterback right now. I know how people in this area love their Cleveland sports teams, and I think that just a diehard quarterback right now would just do wonders for this team and the franchise and the fan base.
More on TV2 Sports Talk coming up on DMG Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable.
At Bear Carpet One, we're more interested in hearing about your needs than talking about our achievements. Here you will find the best selection of floor covering in the region. Currently we are featuring Lee's Carpet. They have been producing carpet since 1846 and still offer the same quality that has made them famous. Visit our storefront located in Sugar Creek next to McDonald's for our store-wide sale from September 5th through September 13th with special financing. Bear Carpet One, where beautiful is made affordable.
Hope you're enjoying Sports Talk here on TV2. Coming up next is Medical Minutes. We bring in a variety of local experts to talk about health topics. All on Medical Minutes right after Sports Talk.
TV2 Sports Talk on DMG Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable. Talking sports old-fashioned style with Roger Metzger, Hank Keith Lynn, Jim Haynes from the Times Reporter. Roger rejoins us. And before we have Hank and Roger arm wrestle over AL Central opinions and Indians and Tigers, going to talk about something that's clearly much more important, and that is the great work the Times Reporter does every year with their charities All-Star Football Game that comes up at the end of July. And Rod, you guys already know who's going to be in place to coach the East and the West.
We do. 38th annual game will be on July 24th. Our West coach is going to be Dan Ift from Dover, and our East coach is going to be Zach Gardner from Sandy Valley, a Dover graduate. And the game is going to be played at Dover. So we got a real Dover flavor going on this year. So we're excited about it.
Well, and when you talk about those two head coaches, you're talking about a guy in Dan Ift who obviously has had tremendous success in his career, and Zach Gardner, who's really doing some good things up at Sandy.
That's for sure. I mean, he's starting to build a culture up there. Tough Dover kid, graduate to Dover and played under Dan. So that's going to be interesting. The dynamic there, coach against the pupil. So that'll be kind of cool. And like you said, Dan is going to be doing our game for the first time. So we're excited to have him there, and it's going to be a fun time.
Let's go back maybe in the history of the TR All-Star Game. Hank, how did that bad boy all get started?
It started back in '78. Ray Takelet was the sports editor back then, and he did a lot of research on this thing, and it really took a lot to put it together initially, because now it's everything's lined up. We just kind of push the buttons and it happens because we've done it before. But back then, they had to find insurance companies. They had to find out, do you have to have insurance for a game like this? They had to, sort out, how do you get referees? How do you get a stadium for something like this? How do you promote it? Starting from scratch, I just can't imagine the work that those guys put into this thing back then.
And of equal importance, in addition to having the game itself, Raj, Hank, either one of you or both of you can address this. You guys have raised thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for area charity.
Yeah, we started off, it used to, the money was divided up between a number of charities. Then we got involved with Rainbow Connection. They've stepped in with a big crew of people to help put the game on. And so we're able to give them a pretty decent amount of money every year. And I know they really enjoy the game because they like the paycheck at the end of it too.
Yeah, we've raised over $300,000 for charity. So that's, in 38 years, or 37 years, that's pretty cool.
The Times Reporter All-Star Football Game, as you could hear Hank and Roger talk about, coming up at the end of July. It'll be played at Dover's Crater Stadium this year. The East taking on the West. And we could jump back into pro sports, but let's keep talking about the TR All-Star Game. These games, Raj and Hank, have come and gone. Not here locally, but I'm talking about All-Star games from perspective. Some places had them for years. They sort of went bye-bye. What do you guys lend the success to you guys continuing to have the game, not only continuing to have it, but continuing to have success with it too?
Well, I just think that the fact that everybody's involved, everybody who is there is a volunteer. The coaches, the referees, the chain crews, the people in the press box, they're just all involved in it. And for one thing, you know how people around here love sports. They love to come out and support the kids in their communities, and just the chance to see these guys play together at a game like this, I think just brings them out of the woodworks.
People love football. That's the bottom line. And like I said, it's going for a good cause, and people, this whole area, the telethon is every year. They raise thousands every year. It's a record breaker every year. So people just love to get involved and to do their share, and that's great about this community.
A local game put on by a local media organization in the Times Reporter, and of equal of all those things coming together, as Raj and Hank alluded to, the money that they raise when it goes to the Rainbow Connection, it stays here locally. in Tuscarawas County. Before we wrap up, do you guys want to arm wrestle representing the Indians and the Tigers? Indian leg wrestle or whatever that was we used to do?
No, I'd afraid he'd break my arm because the way the Tigers have owned the Indians this year, I don't think I'd stand a chance. So.
Yes,
Well,
you Hank?
You know, the Tigers are playing well against the Indians. They just need to play well against everybody else. The thing is, when you look at this division, Detroit might not be the best team in that division. Kansas City's playing really, really well. I think the White Sox have a really good team that are going to make some noise this year.
And the Twins took 2 or 3 from the Indians. So
yes,
where does that put the Indians?
And everybody picked the Indians to win the World Series this year.
Okay, that's enough. Enough, Hammer.
Oh, come on.
No more Hank Keithley promoting the
pick.
Tigers. This is my show. Enough of Tigers honk over here to my right. You've been watching TV2 Sports Talk. Hank Keithley, Roger Metzger, and Jim Haynes with the Times Reporter. Check out their work always. Grab it at the newsstand or online at timesreporter.com. Then join us next week for another edition of TV2 Sports Talk.